Hey friends, this is probably my last Easter Sunday in the pulpit of Royal Point Siena Chapel. And in the score of years before I came up here, I had developed a marvelous and individual approach to Easter sermons. Jeff, you will remember, I began every Easter sermon with a joke. Nothing to do with the sermon. I didn't even try to make it apply. Its only purpose was to make people laugh. Well, you know, a Palm Beach crowd can be intimidating. So I decided the first year I'm not going to do it, and the second year, and the third year, up to the 8th year. But this year, what can they do to me? I've already announced my retirement. So I'm going to tell you a risus bacchus. I don't know if you know the Latin. It means Easter joke, and I did this research myself. You won't find it in any other church. In the Middle Ages, everybody went on a Lenten fast, and they gave up everything that was fun. They really did. And so when Easter came, or at least Saturday noon before Easter, they were allowed to take up everything they had given up. And oh boy, imagine how much fun that would be. So they did. But by the time they got to the 6 o'clock Mass, assuming they had given up alcohol, maybe, or whatever, they were really ready to go and feeling no pain whatsoever. And the priests, clergy, decided to tell stories that they were feeling so good. You're allowed to laugh anytime you want. And so it got so bad that Pope Clement X outlawed risus bacchus from the pulpit. They were very strange stories that the priests told. Well, I'm not a papist, so I'm going to violate the papal decree. Here is the story. It's old, and it's about prayer. This proper Presbyterian lady had a pretty little parrot named Polly. And Polly was a delight to her mistress, but she had a most annoying habit. Every time she met somebody new, she would say, "Whoopee, Charlie, I'm a good time girl." Now, that was a little embarrassing to the woman of the house, especially when the proper Presbyterian parson came to call one day. And don't you know, he walked into the house, and the first thing he heard was Polly saying, "Whoopee, Charlie, I'm a good time girl." And he pretended to be shocked, of course, and the lady said, "I don't know what to do with him." And the parson said, "Oh, don't worry. I'll take care of it. I've got 2 parrots down at the manse, and all they do all day long is pray. I'll take Polly with me. We'll get down there, and these parrots will have such a wonderful influence on Polly, she'll never be the same again." Sure enough, she put 2 covers over the cage to keep Polly quiet. He walked her down to the manse and back the hall to his study, opened up the door, and sure enough, here are 2 parrots, males, their heads bowed down, praying. Upon which Polly didn't care. She let out a "Whoopee, Charlie, I'm a good time girl." One of the parrots hit the other one. He said, "Hey, Luke, wake up. We finally got what we've been praying for." See what you've been missing the last 8 years? You put handcuffs on my mind. My Easter sermon is called, "So what else is new?" The nonchalance of Easter. It concerns how timidly we accept and pass along the fantastic, triumphant news that Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. Years ago up north, you don't plan outdoor Easter sunrise services in Pittsburgh, or you're bound to freeze to death or get rained or snowed upon. So we planned them in the mall. Good idea. Thank you very much. And one Easter morning at a 6 o'clock service, I was running a little late. I don't know why, but I was. And as I got there, the service was underway already, and all the reverend clergy were fancy looking, and the ecumenical choir and the brass quintet and everything, balloons inside a net ready to be let go when Christ actually came out of the grave. And I started down the steps. And the only thing I saw and remember was the windows of the department stores. There were mannequins in there, mostly women, attractive, just right in size, with gorgeous spring costumes on, pink and rose and blue. Not as nice as the most of you today, but nice anyway, good-looking girls. There were some male models too, but we didn't worry about them. And the only problem was with the mannequins, they never moved. Jesus Christ is risen today, hallelujah. And they stood there. And I thought to myself, you know, that's a little parable about the church. All this beautiful music and all this wonderful news that Jesus Christ conquered death and we shall live forevermore. And, oh yeah, I heard that last year. Do you have anything else new? An architect once told me that St. Paul's Cathedral in London, Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece, actually moves down Fleet Street 1/4 of an inch a century. And that's about, some of my friends say, how fast the church moves. Maybe even not that fast. God's people go in slow-mo, and they're not quick to grasp the extraordinary story that changes your life, the lives of ones you love. The whole of the universe is focused on Easter morning, or should be. But let's trace it back a little bit. Suppose you had been there that first Easter Sunday morning, probably in the upper room with the other disciples, 11 of them. And you were minding your own business, tending to your own broken heart. Your best friend and the one you needed most in all the world was gone. And your whole world had caved in, and you thought what was going to happen didn't. And you're there nursing your emotional wounds, and all of a sudden this group of chattering women come marching into the place, telling you this fantastic story that before dawn, they had gone over to the tomb where Jesus had been buried on Friday. Think about it. It takes a lot of courage to go to a graveyard in the dark. And they were going up to anoint his body, which was something that was done in those days. And when they got there, the stone was rolled away, and the body wasn't there. And two men in dazzling raiment, as Courtney read for you, came and talked to them and said, "What are you doing here? Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is risen, as he said." And maybe the most important words to follow, it said, "Did it ever happen to you this way?" Ah, yeah. They remembered his words. How he had said, "Yes, I will be crucified, but in 3 days I will rise again." And they told the disciples, who more could want Jesus to come back? And you remember the punchline at the bottom? They didn't believe the women. Verse 11, chapter 24. The news seemed like an idle tale. In the original Greek, if you're British, that means something like humbug, or in American slang, nonsense. It says in a variant reading that's not really in the new translations, verse 12 is missing. Peter ran up there himself, being rambunctious Peter, and he found just as they had said. Only nobody spoke to him, it says. And he came back bewildered. Wouldn't you be? Wouldn't I be? You go to pay your respects to the one you love, and you can't even find the body. What do you think you would have said to the women? Oh, come on now, honey, settle down a little bit. Relax. Grief is a powerful enemy. Makes you nervous, doesn't it? Makes you crazy sometimes. It steals your perspective. It takes away your sleep. It makes you feel and hear and even see all kinds of strange things. Grief. Individual and power. You should have been with me for the past 45 years when people tell me what happens when someone they love dies and what they hear or see or say. I mean, it's fantastic. But I wouldn't break their confidences, as you know. But you're still there. But you know, I really wonder what they did see. I mean, a dear friend asked me once, do you think Tom, we'll call him, who died, could talk to me now? Does he see me? Does he know what I'm doing and thinking and saying? And if he does, why doesn't he whisper to me once in a while? I said, well, I know he's there. What would you say? So, are you with me? How kindly I'm trying to be? You shouldn't blame that band of brothers. For goodness sakes, they were sure that if Jesus ever came back to anyone, it would be to a man. Why would he go to a woman? And if it would be any man, it would be them. God, I wish it wasn't so. I thought we were going to do it. I wonder if what they said is true. Nah. I was there when they took him down. He was dead as dead can be, and dead men do not rise, and dead men tell no tales. So shift to you. If you came here this morning just out of routine, I don't know, you're welcome anyway. If you came, though, deep down, searching and not knowing what to believe about the first Easter morning, then at least you're in good company. You're in company with the disciples, because they were trying to figure it out too. It didn't come any easier to them than it does to us. They were used to visions and hallucinations. Luke knew at least as much as the brightest of us here about information and how to put it all together. He was brilliant, a doctor by trade, a scholar, a researcher. And you know, the sad thing is, almost everybody missed it. The everyday population of Jerusalem missed it. They were still asleep. Man, 300,000 holiday visitors, we who live on Palm Beach can tell you, that's a lot of people running around a little city like Jerusalem. And when they go home, ooh, is it nice? You know, no traffic. You don't need a reservation in the restaurant. You should stay here some summer if you go away every year. Gets even better than it does in the winter. Sure, it's hot, but we have air conditioning at our house. That's pretty good, right? The money changers missed it. Oh, did they love a holiday weekend? I mean, just he knocked over their tables, but that was 5 minutes out of a week. They were in the counting house counting up their money. The high priest missed it, the low priest too, I guess, and the pastors, and they were exhausted by the time Passover was over. I can tell you, this Holy Week is beautiful, but it's exhausting. So they missed it, and the temple musicians missed it. I mean, they had so many gigs a week before Passover, they were dead tired. And they weren't out there at the tomb at the crack of dawn, but Mary Magdalene didn't miss it, though. By the way, she's the only woman that's there in all four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Everybody else changes, but Mary Magdalene is there. And in John, she's the only woman there. And she goes to get Peter and John. Remember? She didn't miss it. In fact, she preached the shortest, sweetest, loveliest little Easter sermon that anyone has ever heard. You should be so lucky. 5 words. I have seen the Lord. Period. So, I want to persuade you, as your pastor and friend, here are the 3 reasons why you have to make a choice to believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and to believe in his resurrection. I'll be quick. Don't get worried. You'll get there for brunch. The first reason to believe it is it guarantees that your life and you will not end and go away when the final bell rings. You know, most people don't believe in hell anymore, do you? I mean, it used to be that everybody believed in heaven and hell, and the good people went to heaven and the bad people went to hell. And then the church started teaching, good works will never get you into heaven. The love of Jesus Christ is the only thing that'll work. Right? That's right. But Marty said to his students a couple years ago, quit trying to tell them not to try good works. They're not trying anymore. They're doing whatever they want to do. But to get back to being serious, Socrates said as he took the hemlock, why don't you try believing that something's coming? Because if there isn't, you'll just go to sleep. Man, I've been having trouble sleeping the last several weeks, and going to sleep forever doesn't sound too bad to me. That's the worst that can happen. But he said, if you're right, then you prepared yourself to take part in it. And Pascal said in his Treasured Pensies, what have you got to lose? You should bet your life on it. Because if it isn't true, you're not going to have eternal life anyway. And if it is true, you're there. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. St. Paul writes, I remind you, this is 1 Corinthians 15, in what terms I preach to you the gospel by which you are saved. If Christ is not resurrected, your faith is in vain. And of all people, we are to be the most pitied. If Christ was playing a trick on you and me, if we made a mistake and misread it, what kind of loving God would play a trick like that? If Christ is not raised, the nails and the spears and stupid old hot son of Palestine won the day. And fearful, cowardly Pontius Pilate wins. You don't want a world like that. Either the Prince of Peace is victorious, or Caiaphas wears the crown. That's first. Your eternity is assured in Jesus Christ. Secondly, this means almost more to me, honestly, friends. It reassures you that your loved ones will be there with you. That's nice. I buried a 47-year-old brother about 15 years ago. He was too young to die. He's the nicest kid that ever lived. And he died. Pew, gone. Didn't get sick. He died. And I still miss Bobby. And I'd like to think, my parents I mentioned to the children, but I still think I'd like to see Bobby. And if you accept the resurrection of Jesus Christ as he did and I do, then you don't have to worry anymore. Oh, it's lonely. You lose someone you love. You lose a child. It's lonely, by God, and that doesn't change. But at least you know that when the journey's over, we're all going to be together again. And someone said that the real purpose of Luke, each of the gospel writers has a particular purpose in his story, but the purpose in Luke just might be to tell you how much they struggled to come to believe in the resurrection of Jesus. And when they did, they told everyone about it. Second, okay? First, your loved ones. Try to stay awake, everybody. This is a good point, number 3. Accept the resurrection first for you and your loved ones, and then, if you accept it, it reassures you that the universe is compatible with your highest hope. If the universe can't be trusted, then our faith, hope, and lives are all in vain. There's only one choice. Schiller said life is aimless, that man is muck. He makes muck. He returns to muck. Well, Schiller is full of muck. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So you want to follow Schiller? Go ahead. But if you want to, Robert Frost once advised us, we might not know it all, but we know enough to go ahead with. And if you keep going ahead rather than standing still or going backwards, you're going to get there. I love that story of Franz Kafka, of the hunger artist. Did you ever read it? In the cage at the sideshow in the circus? You should read Kafka. There's a new collection of his short stories on it. All this guy could do was fast. I mean, I should learn from him a little bit, but that's all he could do. And he finally starved himself to death. And some guy went up to him just before he died and said, "Hey, why did you do it? It's the most stupid thing I ever saw. You're starving yourself to death. Why?" And you know what he said? "I couldn't find the food I liked. I couldn't find the food I liked." Well, in that case, you better find some food, some spiritual strength, some power. And it just might begin when you say, for a new way this week, today, Lord, I've talked about it a lot, but I never quite crossed the line. Oh, I've danced around the outside on the fringe, but I've never gone in Take me in today, will you? Come into my heart, Lord Jesus. I'll close with a little story. Honest, right hand up, cross my heart and hope to die. With this little story, we're done. I used to have a friend named Jim who lived next door. Oh, he was nice. And Jim was a little grouchy at times. Some other people are that I know. But I always went out of my way to go over and talk to Jim. He'd bark at me once in a while, but I'd bark back, you know. And I know how to bark too. But then one October, his wife died. What a shame. She was nice. And it knocked Jim to pieces. And so every time I came home and saw his car or his light, I'd pop over and say, Jimmy, how you doing tonight? I was busy raising my children and keeping my wife happy and working in the parish. You know how it is. But I got over there. One Easter night I came home about 9. I'd been at a sunrise service at 6. I was dead tired and exhausted. And I looked over, and here comes Jim in his driveway in his car. And I said, thanks a lot, Lord. That's really helpful. I wanted to go to bed. But I'll go over and see Jim. So I went over, and I said, listen now. Jimmy, how are you? Fine? Did you have a good day? Yeah. Did you have a nice Easter? And Jimmy looked at me, and he said, oh my God, Reverend. Was this Easter? I missed it. I've been looking forward to it since Mary died, and I missed it. Hey, I don't want you to miss it. Or you, or you, or you, or you, or you. I don't want you to miss it this Easter. So take a moment sometime before we go. Tell the Lord you love Him. And that you don't know everything probably, but you know enough to go ahead and say, yes, Lord, thank you. And in the resurrected Christ, you'll live for now and forevermore. Amen.